Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another week, another edition of the PondCast. The PondCast episode number 76, your weekly dose of all things StarCraft. Papi. Hello, welcome back, welcome one and all, as we are nearing the end of the year, as we are nearing the Christmas holidays. Hope you all had a great week and a great lead up here in towards the holidays, and we have quite a lot to get into, quite a lot of news, and a big way to start this series, to start this day, is talking about the documentary. For those who are unaware, a ByuN documentary was released by ComeBackTV. ComeBackTV, of course, they are the remnants of O Gaming. They're the remnants, and they are now the core of the French community for StarCraft 2. So big shout to Funka, Coca, and TKL for bringing this all together, as they have released, as of a couple of days ago, they've released an almost hour-long, a 45-minute long documentary here, chronicling the beginning, the early days, the beginnings, and the, of course, culmination of ByuN's career leading into the BlizzCon 2016 Global Finals. So it's one of those things where, if you remember quite some time ago at the start of the year, when a bunch of other documentaries were coming out, specifically this 2 documentary, Yaku and I, we were talking about how it was kind of weird that that a documentary was never made regarding ByuN. Like, ByuN, he's such a storied player, and it's such an easy story to kind of follow as well. His rise, his return to StarCraft, and his rise through the ranks as the one-man army, as the sole player to become the GSL champion, and then later the global champion. That was like a story that just ripe to tell. And we were surprised that no one had kind of stepped in. At the time, Panda Bear Me, Isaac, who made the Sue documentary, which up until this point, and still at this point, I would say, is the best documentary that we've seen in regards to StarCraft. It was really well done. It was a really enthralling story that was kind of weaved together. I was very impressed by the time, the care, the effort, and the conclusion, and the end result of what Panda Bear Me made. He did say that, hey, I am working on a ByuN one as well. So I believe that's still in the works. This ComeBackTV did beat him to the punch here, and they did release this video regarding ByuN. And it was an interesting take, is what I will say. One, it's in French, that is true, but there are English subtitles, so you can follow along, of course, as well, as it does follow the early days of ByuN. Off the bat, they kind of either were misinformed or did or maybe they didn't know the full story itself. But they spoke about how impressive it was for a young player that didn't really have any experience in Brood War to actually, get into SC2 and have as much success as he did. Whereas we know that ByuN did have a history in Brood War, and we know this because of SEL. If you remember, when we were casting StarCraft Evolution League, one of the fun things is that every now and then, whenever ByuN played against Dark, or even ByuN against Solar, or ByuN against Hero, like, ByuN's a really charismatic and talkative guy, but in game, he would just talk to them, and they would reminisce, and very often we'd have moments where ByuN was like, oh my god, I remember playing on this map back when I was in high school. I recall those words. I think that was when ByuN was playing against Dark, and they were reminiscing amongst themselves about back in the day, back when they were playing these maps on Brood War. Because for those who don't know, in StarCraft Evolution, which is a mod that pits Brood War versus SE2, they have ported over a bunch of older Brood War maps into StarCraft 2. So playing on these older maps did kind of prompt and elicit just some banter and some storytelling between ByuN and Dark and Solar and Hero. So if you watch the VODs of a lot of those games that we casted, often in game 1, in the early part of the series, or even whenever one of those maps would pop up, they would have a long discussion amongst themselves, just going full boomer and just reminiscing on old days and old times when playing Brood War. So yes, ByuN did not have a career in Brood War, but he did play Brood War. He did play Brood War. He did ladder in Brood War. May not have played competitively, but it was still a part of his still a part of ByuN's early days. I only bring this up just because in the beginning of the documentary, they say that ByuN, he was enthralled, and he watched a pro game of Brood War on TV, and they said that that wasn't enough to get him to play Brood War. They say something along those lines, which isn't necessarily true. He was playing it in high school with his friends, but he just wasn't playing at the competitive level. That didn't happen until StarCraft 2, of course. So just want to make that part a little bit clearer, just in case they were kind of like painting a bit of a different story. But I do appreciate that they kind of like went through his initial origins, talking about his time in a lot of these different teams and his early days and his early career in Wings of Liberty, leading into Heart of the Swarm, leading into his hiatus and retirement, and then leading into his return as well. I will say that. I do think that it's very much so very systematic and very methodical, kind of going through like his tournaments, his performance. There is one section that I do really like, which they add context to, which is his run in GSL, where apparently he had made a deal with his team, with his team coach, with his team owner. I believe it was when he was on. Was it when he was on Prime or Zenith? It was one of the two. I think it was on Zenith. No. Yeah, I think it was on Zenith, where he made a deal where if ByuN would make it into the top 4 of GSL, then he would be able to get a puppy and actually have the puppy in the team house. Like they made this deal, and they kind of went into it how like, they kind of like wove this tale of like how ByuN, he was down 2-0. I think it was against Bomber, if I recall correctly. He was down 2-0 against Bomber, and then he began the comeback and he did the reverse sweep and he beat him, and he did so, you know, like thinking about his puppy the entire time, thinking about getting his pet. But of course they were joking with that, but in interviews after the fact, ByuN did say that he was really stressed and he was having a really hard time like controlling his anxiety in that series. But getting ready for the for the ace match, like for the final game, he was like thinking about you know getting a pet puppy and actually bringing it into the team house, and that actually helped him focus on the game itself. That was kind of like the goal. The end goal was not becoming GSL champion, but owning a puppy. There you go. And then they spliced in the moment when he brings the puppy into GSTL, and then they have like the team like mascot with ByuN's puppy. So I like that they kind of brought a little bit more context into that. Something that they didn't do an amazing job at, I would say, is chronicling his time at Prime. Just because Prime was a really big deal. It as if you're a bit of a newer fan of StarCraft, it's kind of hard to really think of Prime in that way, because Prime, if you remember, especially if you mainly focus on StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm, especially Pro League era of Heart of the Swarm, coming into Legacy of the Void, Prime, they were one of the worst. They were the worst team. Like, like if you remember in Pro League, like Prime, they were always at the bottom of the rankings. Like Prime, like they had Creator as the ace player. That's true, but they didn't really have too much support for Creator. They had like Cassia. If you remember, I think Akira is gonna have like a blast in the past. Remember Cassia? I know Myeonshik eventually joined. I know Yoda eventually joined.
Wasn't Salvation later Forte on Prime originally as well? Because he was on MVP
I know
later.
he was on MVP.
Yeah, but I don't remember if he was on Prime first and then on.
I don't remember he was on Prime first and then joined MVP. I know he was on MVP. But like Prime had a lot of like up and coming players and like semi-pro players, like players that didn't really like break into the upper echelons, except for Creator. Like Creator, he was always like the ace, the star, and that's how it was like for Heart of the Swarm and for Legacy as well, up until of course everything happened regarding Prime and then the matchmaking scandal of course. But what I'm getting at is that before that, Prime was a powerhouse team before Kespa came in, right? Before Kespa got involved, before that era in GSTL and in GSL, like Prime, they were a heavy-hitting team. They had Maru, they had ByuN, they had Creator. That's why they're all still good friends, by the way. That's why if you see them hanging out, it's because they all became friends on Prime, and eventually they got picked up by other teams, right? Maru by Jinair, and ByuN, he kind of went off on his own, and became teamless, of course, and did his own thing. But there were a lot of really, really good players that originated on Prime. It's just that they all left, right? Over time, they all it's kind of sad, but it's like Prime was like this it was like this grassroots like team that would find these kind of like diamonds in the rough, and then they'd grow, and then they'd be taken away. Like, it was like Prime was like a place where they would find the good players, they'd prop them up just to be found by other bigger teams and then kind of taken away for the most part. Or at least that's how it felt like. But they didn't really. I want to say this documentary didn't really talk too much about that. I would say that they even spent a little bit more time about ByuN being on Zenith, and Zenix as well. That's in Zenix after Zenith merged. But yeah, they spoke a little bit more on that. They didn't really emphasize too much about ByuN's time on Prime and his relationship with the others. They had like a couple of lines here and there where they talked about ByuN's relationship with Maru, which is current, when it comes to their friendship. But they didn't delve too much into it. And I feel like it's a really important part of ByuN's upbringing and the early days for ByuN, I feel, as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame that too much wasn't given to that. And in general, as I was mentioning, like it does feel like the documentary goes from one tournament to the next to the next to the next. And of course, it does focus quite heavily on that final pinnacle peak moments of ByuN returning to the game and doing really well in Elite Leagues and Leifeng Cups and doing really well in online tournaments. And then that eventually reflecting in his GSL performance as well. And then that's going into eventually the global finals. Yeah, it's I want to say that the main focus was done decently well here, but I will say that it's still lacking that kind of like that narrative that weaves through everything. Like part of me feels like it might also be because they didn't interview ByuN. I feel like ByuN is pretty accessible, and I think that it's a bit of a shame that they didn't get to interview ByuN and ask him some pointed questions about certain aspects of his career and his life. If you remember, that's something that Panda Bear Me was able to do. Like in his documentary, he did have a voice call and he did interview Sue. I feel like that helps a little bit when it comes to getting a little bit more insight as to their mindset, as to what's going through their mind, as to how they recollect things and what's important to them as well. I think that a little bit of that was lacking here, and I feel like it wasn't necessary. Like as in, I feel like they it's something they could have done, but they opted not to. Like it was a little bit more of an impersonal kind of documentary. I think that it was put together well and all of that. I found it really interesting that they would often use the commentary from the French casters for GSL and things of that nature, and I was a little bit caught off guard, but there was a lot of swearing. There was from the casters. So I was like, oh my god. As I've never listened to the French casters before, but I felt that a little bit funny when they came to GSL. They'd be like, oh shit, like like the casters, whatever they covered, like they yeah, there was a lot of that, which I found very funny. So I appreciated getting some glimpse into the French casting side of things, in regards to like GSL and BlizzCon and some of the other events that they covered. But yeah, overall it was done well. I did appreciate it. Again, very nostalgic, being able to see all these old players. There are even some moments where I was like, really, where they were like, hey, ByuN E3 at center, and then they're like, I have no idea who center is. It's like, god damn it. There were a couple of moments like that where maybe they're not as familiar with other players or something, and then they don't shy away from that or anything like that nature. But yeah, it was a really nice documentary nonetheless. I think ByuN even commented. If you actually look at TL, in the TL thread, ByuN he responded to it. He's like, oh, thank you for making the video. Like there were so many like moments here that I missed that like elicit good memories. So ByuN, he saw it, he likes it, which is really cool. And yeah, I do recommend checking it out, especially if you're a newer fan of StarCraft. Like I mentioned earlier, how like if you're a newer fan, that's a weird way of putting it. But if you're someone that got into StarCraft like in Heart of the Swarm, then your perception of Prime would be a little bit different. And if you're someone that watches StarCraft that only recently got into it during the COVID era, then you would have no idea about Pro League or GSTL or even ByuN's kind of rise and that era, that 2016 run, right? It's like you probably wouldn't even be familiar with that. So I do recommend it. It's a big part of StarCraft history. It's crazy that we haven't had a documentary covering ByuN up until this point. And again, just to cap it off, we should be, or I believe that Panda Bear Me is working on his own documentary covering ByuN as well. So look forward to it. There are so many stories to tell. I believe ComeBackTV, they've done one on Sue already, and they plan on doing more. Obviously, they're working on the Comeback Kid. They're working on Clem's documentary. But I believe they plan on doing more. They plan on doing and covering even more of these players, and making even more of these documentaries.
I would also say it's also pretty cool like on one hand, it's another ByuN documentary, and the general public can learn more about ByuN in case they didn't know these things. But on the other hand, like the main audience of this one specifically is the French community, which I think is interesting because specifically people who maybe they don't like watch the English content as much, like they can still like learn that story in their own language, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's really cool that this side of the community is taking the initiative to like make these, and then again to have this from their perspective as well, for sure. Is really cool. I feel like there's still so much potential for even more documentaries, for even more of these players to actually have their stories followed, because there's just so much history to StarCraft. There's just so much there. Obviously, Zombie is working on her own, greater scoped kind of like documentary series as well, which covers StarCraft more as a whole, more than anything. But like these more like character focused or player focused like stories can be told. Covering ByuN, covering Dark, covering TY. Like they even spoke about TY in this video as well, talking about how he was the youngest pro gamer. That's why he had the nickname Baby. True. Like Maru, you can do some coverage on Maru as well. Scarlet is a big one. Bomber, Fantasy. So yeah, there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential for sure, and I look forward to the next one. Big shout out to Funka, to TKL, and to Koka, and to all those working behind the scenes on the event. GG. Came out really well. Do recommend it. For sure. And that leads us into our next bit of news here, which we did cover over the weekend, and I mean, may as well delve a little bit more into it, but that was the RSL, the Rival StarCraft League, of course, did wrap up over the course of the weekend. It was a 2-day event on December 13th and 14th. It was the open bracket leading into the playoff bracket in day number 2. Very long event. I'm still recovering myself. I do apologize. We casted a little bit less this week just because, again, I was so fatigued from the weekend from covering. We were casting it here ourselves. We were co-streaming the main event. The main event was covered by Tasteless, by Artosis. Artosis, he actually flew over. I believe that was part of like the goal on Patreon, was that they were able to fund like flying Artosis over to have Tastosis be a thing offline for the first time in a long time. Since, for those who don't know, Artosis returned to Canada quite some time ago. It's been like a couple of years actually since he's no longer been in Korea, and it's been Tasteless and State, or Tasteless and No Regret, or Tasteless and like whoever would be there when it comes to covering GSL. So they've been doing their own thing, and Artosis is back in Canada, back in the Americas. So yeah, it was cool to see him back, cool to see him return. Of course, State was working on the event. Gemini, they had Sort of on. He initially was, I think, he was a guest caster initially in season 3. But again, for those who don't know, he is in Korea, and he was brought on as a proper analyst and proper caster for the event, which I think was a really solid choice, just because, of course, he has a lot of insight when it comes to Zerg games and Zerg play, and there were quite a lot of Zerg involved games in this tournament, so he had a lot to add. And a lot to contribute to the cast itself. Once again, to focus on it, it was an offline event. It was a big offline event a big offline event in Korea near Gangnam, if I recall correctly, in a studio that they host offline events quite often there, and I think there's been StarCraft there as well in the past. But they're experienced when it comes to that sort of thing, so they're able to rent them, able to make use of the team that is already working in the studio, of course. So they were able to make use of that and make RSL a reality at that offline event. They had some really nice. We have some really nice photos being released from people that were going there, of course, of the venue, of the crowd as well, of the audience. It was really cool to see just offline StarCraft in Korea, which we again haven't had in quite some time. It's been quite a long time since we've experienced that, and again, that's all over social media. It was also great to see, we spoke about this last time, Streamer Zone, they flew over their team, their roster. They flew over Geralt and Jumi from Europe over to Korea to compete in the event, in the open qualifier. So that's why we had Geralt, that's why we had Jumi. We had, of course, SOS and Percival also there as well. There was Periodosta. I noticed him when sorry, a nightmare. And Peridosa, I remember seeing him in the crowd because he had his like a quote unquote jersey on where his name was on his back. So I was like, we know him. So he was there as well, alongside many others in Korea. So yeah, it was really cool to see just an offline event
Also,
happening once again.
very cool. Something that Periodista did indeed post about was that they had the cheerful zone where you could actually make your own cheerfuls. That's a very
Yes,
nice
yes.
tradition.
If I remember, they forgot it in game one. Sorry, day one they forgot it, but day two they brought them in. I remember they spoke about it during the broadcast, where I think Tasteless was like, "Oh, sorry guys, like we how could we forget?" So I believe the cheerfuls were there for day two, if I remember correctly. So yes, so they had the cheerfuls, and we got to see them. Like you got to see drawings being made in the crowd and all that good stuff. It was really cool to see. They would have winners interviews as well for all the game matches, for all the games. They had Maddox, who was of course interviewing for them. He had his big stool. I remember that blew up on Reddit where it looks like they didn't have enough chairs, so Maddox, he was just sitting on a massive stool, and he was
He
off
got like a
camera,
bar chair essentially.
yeah, pretty much. He had like a bar stool, but it was fine. It was fine. So yeah, it was a really cool event, and of course we were able to cover it ourselves, at least online. When it comes to the event itself, as you can see here, we have the open qualifier, which was day one. It was a very intense qualifier. As you mentioned, we had a couple of Europeans flying over. Gareth and Jumi, they flew over thanks to Streamer Zone. Trigger, he is in Korea, has been in Korea for the majority of the past 2 years, so he was also part of the event. And Rainer, he went to Korea a couple of months ago. It's been a couple of months since he went to Korea. He was playing RSL Season 3 from Korea as well. So Rainer, he's been just grinding on Korea. He flew over to Korea so he can play on the League of Legends Korean ladder. So he's been enjoying himself there, and he happened to play a little bit of StarCraft as well. So Esther Rainer. So Rainer, he got to compete. And hey, Rainer, he made it through the open stage. Again, all that League of Legends, baby. It's paying off. Taking down Jimmy, Percival, Solar went all the way to the ace match, and took down Maru as well. So very impressive performance there by Rainer. Really intense. Honestly, that ZVZ between himself and Solar could have gone either way. I can 100% see a world where Solar could have beaten Rainer there. But Rainer, he barely came out on top. It was a very intense and very aggressive series. And that led into a series which is Maru. Which likewise was also hyper aggressive. Both players, we saw Rainer going proxy hatchery, pulling the boys, and going for early pool timings. We had Maru going for proxies and going for a bunch of 2-base all-ins and 2-base shenanigans. We saw like fake mech into real mech. We saw some it's crazy. But it was a very aggressive series. Really aggressive. Went all the way to game 6. Went all the way to game 6. Didn't quite go to the ace match. That would have been ideal. But to go all the way to game 6, and again, I do recommend it. Not a lot of macro. I want to say that game number 6 on Winter Madness, I think that was the closest to a macro game, if I recall correctly. But again, it was just really hyper aggression from both Maru and Rainer, which is always a lot of fun. Also, I don't want to gloss over it, but Maru, when it came to his performance, Shin actually also came very close to bringing down Maru. Like, I can 100% see a world where Shin would have been Maru instead. Like, Shin had a really nice performance, taking down Cure, taking down SOS, and eventually falling to Maru in the ace match. I would say, this happens quite often, but I would say the semifinals were insanely close, and they could have gone either way. The finals was also really intense, but in a different kind of manner here. Rainer was able to be a little bit more dominant and come out on top over Maru. With that led into day 2, which was the grand final bracket, the playoff brackets. We already had 3 players seeded in. It was Classic, Hero, and Zaun from the previous RSL seasons, and we had Rainer making it through from the open brackets. And Rainer, he did go down to Classic. Classic, of course, is one of the best Protoss players in the world. Classic alongside Hero, and Rainer, he was kind of thrown into a bracket full of Protoss. I remember that after his winners interview, the 3rd place match, Rainer, he was like, I don't want to see another Protoss for like at least another month. That's the last thing he said on camera after the 3rd place match. So he's done with the ZVPs. But they're not done with him, because as much as he wants to avoid them, I'm sure he'll get them. I'm sure he cannot stay away, man. There's Protoss everywhere. So it was that meme where Rainer, he was on the couch surrounded by pure Protoss. Classic, Hero, and Zaun. Classic having a much more dominant performance over Rainer. It was really impressive to see Classic be as aggressive as he was and be able to keep up, and I would say even mind game Rainer. the one game with Botanical was the game where Raynor was able to tech up really quickly, if you remember. Raynor, he went for a very fast lurker timing and was able to break Classic before Classic could get into Skytoss and build up into a more robust 4-base setup. But that's also because in Botanical, the bases were more spread out, and specifically Classic had a really hard time rotating and keeping up with the army movement of Raynor. But outside of that, we saw Raynor attempt to play mutas, we saw Raynor attempt to play more standard and more passive at times, and Classic had none of that. Like, again, it felt very like it felt like there was a lot of pressure on Raynor to be more aggressive, but we didn't really get to see much of that. Like, I was waiting to see like more 3-base play and 3-base all-ins, but Raynor, he had a different approach and did struggle against Classic. Did struggle against him. Meanwhile, Hero versus ZeroSpace was also a bit of a back and forth, a little bit more one-sided in favor of Hero in the PvPs that led into the grand finals. That was also a very aggressive PvP. I want to say that there was maybe one macro game between Classic and Hero, but for the most part, it was hyper aggression, non-stop proxies. Proxy Robo, Proxy 2 Gates, Proxy Twilight Council, Stargate play. We didn't really have any Phoenix play. We didn't have any Phoenix Wars, but we saw attempted Phoenix play and punished Phoenix play. It was, again, hyper aggressive in those finals. In general, something that I do appreciate about the new map pool is that it does favor more aggressive play. That's what we've been getting between Mara and Raynor and Classic and Hero, 2 really nice best of 7s, and again it went all the way, and again just very high octane. Very few games kind of slowed down and got into like a long drawn out late game. Didn't really happen, not in this tournament, not in this broadcast. And of course, shout out to Raynor for coming in 3rd place. ZeroSpace actually beat Raynor in RSL Season 3. Like, ZeroSpace did defeat him, and this series was incredibly close. I said this about the other best of 3s, about the other semifinals, but even here, I can see a world where ZeroSpace beats Raynor. Like that series was so close and so intense and so back and forth. A couple of moments here and there, and ZeroSpace could have been Raynor as well. So, again, very close in skill, a lot of these players, and in the end, we got an ace match in the 3rd place match and an ace match in the grand finals. What more could you ask, Pappy? What more could you ask? So congratulations to Hero. Hero is going to be our RSL champion for the end of 2025. Classic coming in 2nd place, Raynor in 3rd, and ZeroSpace in 4th place. So congratulations to our top 4 players here. Very well done, very well played. I will say there were some players that were missing, of course. We did mention at the time, but ByuN, I believe ByuN was sick. We were notified the reason why ByuN was less active this past week, this past 2 weeks, is that ByuN, he was a little bit unwell, a little bit under the weather, so ByuN did stop, or he did decide to not participate in certain open cups in the lead up to this, and looks like RSL as well, as ByuN was recovering. So again, ByuN was not a part of this event, for example, and I think there may be like 1 or 2 others that are maybe missing. But for the most part, we had all the top players, we had all the top names, like Rogue, for example, is missing here as well. But we had all the top names, all the top players, and yeah, it's a really fun and really cool event. It's always nice to have some like European versus Korean action. There's always a lot of hype around matches like that, of course. Bit of a shame that it was a PvP finals, but if it had to be a PvP finals, hey, here in Classic, you can't get better than that. Like, if you want just non-stop aggression, then that is the series to go for. I always have a little more fun covering Hero versus Classic more than like Hero versus Max Packs or Max Packs versus Classic. Like, Hero versus Classic, they get down and dirty with each other, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But GG well played. Congratulations to Hero. Of course, RSL, they did announce that there's going to be another season, which we already knew, right? Because of the Patreon, because it's all funded via Patreon, like it does mean that we will have future seasons of RSL as long as the Patreon is healthy. And of course, we have confirmation that RSL is coming in spring of 2026, which is very vague, but we kind of knew that already. So just confirmation from the casters themselves. And again, I did really appreciate that Sort of was a part of the event to bring some analysis. Shout out to Gemini for providing some Protoss analysis. They didn't really have their own Terran expert, but I mean, there wasn't much Terran play anyway, aside from Maru. So they got through it fine. It was all good. They got away with it. As that leads us into the Finnish Cup, into the StarCraft 2.fi15v Cup. There's a lot of dots. There's God damn it. But 15v, StarCraft 2 15v. We have the offline, or I say offline event. We have the major event, which is online/offline. So there is an offline portion. But
I want to point out that I believe that 15v is like the 15th anniversary, because they do one for every anniversary of StarCraft 2.
There you go. There you go. But yes, so this is a big event happening in Finland. It is casted by Cyril. Remember, Cyril does not compete in this, otherwise he would win 100%. But Cyril, he casts this event instead, and he helps sponsor the event. So big shout out to Basilisk for stepping in as a sponsor, thanks to Cyril's involvement. And we finally have the event concluding. And I wasn't too sure if Mixu could do it. Remember, Mixu is off racing in this event as Terran. Mixu takes down Endboard 3-1, takes down Lowless 3-0, and takes down PewPew 4-2 as well. GG, well played. Mixu off racing and coming out on top. Este Mixu, papi. GG, well played. Again, it looks like we were missing some players. Zhugelang was unavailable. So a little bit unfortunate that he was not able to compete. I remember that I had high hopes for Luton, but Luton did not manage to rematch Mixu. Luton went down early in the semifinals to PewPew instead. So there was no rematch between the two players. Luton did defeat Mixu in the group stage, but he did not have a chance at the rematch here in the playoff bracket. So congratulations to Mixu for winning the event and for claiming himself as the best in Finland. Cyril merely a caster in this event. True. So shout out to Mixu. It also does show like a bit of a skill gap, of course, when it comes to some of the players where Mixu is off racing and able to come out on top. Hopefully events like this are able to foster growth and foster incentives for players to compete and partake more in it and improve as well, and improve and look to reach greater heights in StarCraft. That is the hope, at least. That is the hope. So congratulations to Mixu, coming out on top with his Terran. He's got his lovely trophy to hold on to as well, as again that the playoff portion was offline. So congratulations. Next up, we do have news. Speaking of offline events, another offline event happening here in Germany. We already spoke about HomeStory Cup being confirmed. We already spoke about dates. But now we have some confirmed players. Here we go. So up first, we have a Protoss lineup of Hearthstone, Showtime, and Mana, and many more, which is true. Like Europe and also StarCraft in general has plenty of Protoss to spare, so I'm sure it's going to be very Protoss heavy tournaments. For Terran, we have Clem, Euromarine, and Uwu Thermal, and many more, which I would agree. I expect to see like Moja there, maybe Battle B. If you remember, Battle B was not at the last HomeStory Cup, but he was playing in tournaments at the time, even afterwards, so I do hope to see some Battle B action as well, and we expect to see Moja there. But Clem, Big Gabe, and Thermal are confirmed, and for Zerg we have Lambo. And I love how it says Lambo and many more, and then it says hashtag we need more Zergs. Again, if you've been following StarCraft over the past couple of years, you will know that Zerg players are very finite. They're very much so the minority when it comes to the amount of pro players that they are out there. It is unfortunate, just a lot of Zerg players have retired over time for many reasons. Again, we've kind of like dissected and analyzed the rationale behind that in the past as well. But it is a bit of a shame. What I will say is that right now we have seen a bit of a resurgence for Zerg. What I mean by that, Alazer and Sort of. These are the two players that come to mind that had retired from StarCraft and recently returned. Both Sort of and Alazer decided to focus and step away from StarCraft and focus on Age of Empires, if you remember, on AoE 4. But in recent times, because of the recent patch and the recent map pool, it kind of lured them in, and they started competing again. Sort of in Malaysia, they started competing. Even right now, Sort of is streaming, for example. Like Sort of in Malaysia, they started streaming again. They started playing again. They started playing more StarCraft 2. So we have, again, that bit of a resurgence here in Zerg performances and in Zerg play. So hopefully a Laser at least can be a part of this event. I'm assuming a Laser, it's going to be more difficult for Sort of because he's not in Europe. And the reality is that trying to pay for flights and pay for players to travel is... the budget, from my understanding, the budget of HomeStory Cup is very small, and there's a reason why. If you look at the most recent 3-4 HomeStory Cups, there's not really much international representation. There's not really many Koreans competing and going to the event. Usually, if a Korean's going, they're paying for it themselves, or their team is paying for it. So I would imagine that Nightmare and SOS, they're probably going to go to HomeStory Cup. Streamer Zone paid for Jumi and Geralt to fly to Korea. And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Do apologize as the stream did go down. Looks like there were just some technical issues behind the scenes, but we should be back. Unfortunately, I was talking for like a good solid 2 minutes before I realized that the stream had gone down. So a bit of a feels bad, man. But we were just discussing the potential players that were going to be a part of HomeStory Cup and who'd be going. I was talking about how the budget for HomeStory Cup is very small, so the likelihood of them flying players over is likewise very small as well. There's a high chance that teams like Streamer Zone would fly their players over to compete. There's maybe a chance that Team Vitality might fly their players over as well. I know they've done so in the past, so they might do so again, maybe. But otherwise, you mainly have to rely on European players being able to make a bit of a cheaper trek over to HomeStory Cup. When it comes to Zerg representation, we were speaking on a laser. Again, I don't know if this was cut off or not, but I was talking about how Laser and Sort of, they have been playing a lot of, they retired from StarCraft, they switched to AoE 4, to Age of Empires, and they recently did return to StarCraft 2 with the latest map and the latest patch. So great to see the return of Laser and Sort of, and that means that, hey, that means that we can see, there's a higher chance that Laser is now going to be a part of HomeStory Cup. Unfortunately, Sort of, he is in Korea, so there's a low chance that he'll be flying to Europe and flying to Germany to compete, but a Laser should be a sure thing. I was thinking of some other potential Zerg players. Fiant is a big one, right? Fiant, I do think we expect to see a part of the event. I'd love to see Lorimba. Happy to get Lorimba over as well. I know that Iba probably won't be. He's very young, and I don't think his family would let him travel to compete in StarCraft, unfortunately. So I don't think Iba's going to be part of that. And again, I don't know if this was cut out, but when it comes to other Zerg representation in Europe, a lot of it is based in the CIS region. Players like Wayne, Young Yakov, Gigi Machine, we do not expect them to travel and to go to HomeStory Cup and go to Germany and be part of that event. So that's also why, like, again, there's probably not going to be much Zerg representation. Who else is there? What are the other options? Like Lambo, Fiant, Laser. And I'm struggling to think of other. Oh, Mixu, maybe Mixu as well. True. Yeah, hey, Mixu, he just won the Finnish tournament, so maybe Mixu. I think that's it when it comes to Zerg players. When it comes to Raynor, right, that was the other thing that we were discussing last time. I don't know when Raynor is returning to Europe, right? Like, Raynor, he is in South Korea right now. I don't know when he flies back to Europe. I don't know if he's going to be available in Europe to compete in HomeStory Cup. He can always line up his flight to just go from Korea to Germany. And to be part of, again, this is going to be the end of January 30th, I should say. So if Raynor lines it up, then he might be able to go. So Raynor's a maybe for this one, but for now we only have Lambert confirmed. And again, hashtag we need more Zergs. Let's go, let's go. But it'd be crazy if they could like gather funds to be able to like fly solo over, for example. If we go out of EU and press on NA, Eric would be a good player to go, right? I was talking about the likelihood of of international representation on HomeStory Cup is going to be very low, just because their budgets are very limited. So I don't think, because they have a limited budget, I don't think they would necessarily spend that on a player like Eric or a player that's like maybe a little bit lesser known to bring to the event. Whether it's Eric or Cham, for example, there's a chance that they might go for Scarlet. Like, Scarlet might be a high enough fan favorite player. Like there'd be a lot of hype if Scarlet went, and I think it would bring in more viewership. So that's a maybe. Like where they might invest, and they might be willing to fly Scarlet over, or they might be willing to fly like Solar over. But it depends, because again, from my understanding, like the flight budgets are very, very low for HomeStory Cup. So I would say like maybe one, maybe two, if at all. So that's always something to bear in mind. Always something to bear in mind. But regardless, we at least have some confirmed players for HomeStory Cup. And again, the HomeStory Cup is going to be at the very end of January 30th to February 1st. Oh boy, so 3-day long event. We may be a part of it in the near future. We have been a part of HomeStory Cup. We've been the B stream for HomeStory Cup for like the past 5 editions, so most likely we'll be there as well. Meanwhile, when it comes to our next bit of news, we have ZeroSpace. ZeroSpace closed playtest is in the works. Okay, when I say in the works, I believe it already. Oh no, it has begun. It has begun here. It looks like the closed playtest began on the 15th of December, which was a couple of days ago, and it ends on the 28th of December. Now this is applicable to those that did support and did get this tier via Kickstarter. So true. Those that were greater supporters should now have access to this. Bearing in mind that it is a closed playtest, what does that mean? That means that this content is not being streamed. It's not being streamed, is not being created. I'm sure there are going to be some specific content creators and some specific outlets that are going to be given permission to do so, permission to to make videos on this. I'm sure that most likely would happen. But for those that have access to the game, have access to the playtest, that is all behind the scenes, and it is all just, again, for testing purposes, more or less. So again, if you're a part of that, I mean, do take advantage of that, right? You have a limited amount of time to actually be to take part and take place and actually get your hands on and in ZeroSpace. Of course, there are some. This definitely like a dark cloud looming over RTS at the moment, especially with what happened with Stormgate, and with the everything surrounding Stormgate and the direction of the game. Not just that, but also what the main developers have been saying on LinkedIn and Reddit and other sources, and just everything surrounding it is very dire, very doom and gloom. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a shame with what happened with something like Stormgate. But I would say don't let that like negatively impact your perception on other RTSs that are in the works, like ZeroSpace, like Gates of Immortal Hidden Pyre, Gates of Pyre, Immortal Space,
Immortal Gates of Fire. That's the full name.
There you go. Look, Vanguard. The Gates.
It should just be called Vanguard. Yeah.
It would have just, one word, Vanguard. That's all. Like, did we have to really mix it up and throw in like 5 different words? God damn it. But Immortal Gates of Pyre, ZeroSpace, other updates to Tempest Rising. Like there are other games in the works, of course, that do deserve your attention, and that's shouldn't necessarily be, again, negatively impacted by what happened over with Frost Giant with Stormgate. So yeah, do look forward to it. Do look forward to ZeroSpace and what they are cooking up behind the scenes. Of course, once we get full release or once we get permission, then we may be stepping in as well. Unfortunately, we never really got to do anything with Stormgate. I do feel a little bit bad about that, but I mean, nothing came of it anyway. But
I was gonna say, officially the game is still not a 1-0, so you know.
True. But regardless, do look forward to what comes from ZeroSpace in the near future. And again, closed playtests are now open, so if you have unlocked that when it comes to the stretch goals, when it comes to the Kickstarter, then do consider taking place, and provide some testing, of course. That leads us into our next bit of news. That leads us into the events. That leads us into Yamato Cup number 4. Here we go. This is an event, a more amateur event for those that are below 5k MMR. That is low GM and below. This event did take place a couple of days ago, sponsored and organized and casted by Killer B. Okay. In English, of course, this event did take place, and we did have Mathrix. Mathrix did perform quite well for himself, taking down Mado 2-1, going down to the upper semifinals. Dizzy Dwarf was a part of this event as well. I see Kosit, I see Case Peros, I see Sexyphos, Beast was there as well, Pretty Fly, Cos Phoenix, Abathor. A lot of players that are regulars in our events are here competing, so great to see them once again, especially those that have kind of like transitioned out of this and have graduated, like Dizzy Dwarf. Dizzy Dwarf is an example of a player that got too good for MSO, but hey, this is for 5k and below, so he is well within his rights to compete in this event, and did go far for himself. And Matrix, even he himself, won in the rematch. He went down initially to Sexy Fox in the initial upper bracket semifinals, but was able to fight all the way back and still went down, did take a map, but Sexy Fox does win in the end, 3-1 over Matrix, over Matrix. GG, well played, congratulations to Sexy Fox. GG. Winning Yamato Cup number 4. That leads us into our regional events. That leads us into the Hungarian Pro Series Team League number 2. We did already discuss this. We already went over some of the teams being constructed and made as well. It was kind of hard to have any kind of insight as to which teams would be favored, especially considering what the format would kind of entail. The group stage already did conclude, actually. Okay, so the group stage did conclude quite some time ago, it looks like. But finally, we can step
the group
into...
stage, I'm pretty sure.
We did. We already went through the group stage, but now we can finally get into the playoff brackets. When it came to the group stage, it concluded November 29th, so end of November, and it looks like they had a 2-week break, and then coming into the early week of December, we did have our first round being played. We had Team Banshee versus Team Mutalisk. We had Seiko. Seiko took down Zane 2-0. We had Hornix take down Plaza 2-0 as well. Oh my god. Jesus, a bunch of best of twos here. Yeah, non-stop best of twos. We had the initial Division 4 matches, Division 3, Division 2, Division 1. In the end, a much more one-sided series with Banshee taking down Mutalisk 9-1. A strong showing here from Banshee, with Seiko taking down Zane, with Hornix taking down Plaz, with many as one, taking down Sistas 2-0. We had Ibra up against Alpha Fire 2-0 as well. We did have a bit of a comeback towards the end with Sarah taking down Sophisto 2-0, and we had a tied 1-1 score between PSC and Freeman. But again, overall was a little bit more one-sided here. Congratulations to Banshee as they advanced on to the quarterfinals to play against Team Hybrid Reaver. That is going to be taking place after Christmas, 27th of December. Okay. And we already have our lineups as well. I do appreciate that they release lineups ahead of time, so players have time to prepare and get ready for their best of twos, and they even have their starting maps as well. So really cool to see that they have that kind of that heads up, that kind of time to prepare. That preparation-based format is always a lot of fun. So best of luck to all the teams preparing and competing. Best of luck to Banshee and to Hybrid Reaver. Bearing in mind that Team Dark Templar waiting in the semifinals and Team Marine waiting in the grand finals as well. So GG all played. Best of luck to all the reigning teams. Best of luck to all those in Hungary. That leads us into the Waterfall Cup number 2. Once again, this is an event organized by Mindel VK. It is a massive double elimination bracket for the CIS region. We did have Nikita. Okay, Nikita was competing with GG Machine and Nigrat, Young Yakov, Milky Cow, Shameless, Wayne. The best of the best were facing off here. And I don't think we're missing anyone notable here, so do love to see the best of the best facing off. We had Skillus looking dominant, actually. Okay, so Skillus had a bit of a shakier performance last week in Tuna Cup, but here Skillus, he takes down UD Soldier 2-0, takes down Isop 2-0. I say that actually had a really fast series against Young Yakov. True, I was misremembering that. Who did Skillus? It was in the November finals, right? Hold on. Skillus, that's it. He had a back and forth series against Percival 2-1, but then he 3-0'd Shameless and he 3-0'd Young Yakov. Like, Skillus was looking like a beast in the November finals with a shakier start. Here, same thing. Skillus, he doesn't drop a single map. Nikita, calm down, baby, calm down. He 2-0's UD Soldier, 2-0's GG Machine, 2-0's Wayne, and 3-0's Young Yakov in the grand finals. Skillus did take a little bit of time off post EWC, but it's great to see Skillus return, and Skillus is looking very in form. Bearing in mind that we have seen players like GG Machine, like Wayne, like Young Yakov, like Nickrak, like Shameless. We have seen these top players in the CIS region or from Russia take it to Skills before and take maps and take series, but not in this tournament. In this tournament, Skillus does not hold back, and he walks away without losing a single map. Like a perfect win here. It's crazy. But GG, well played in Skillus. He does claim the win. Shout out to Young Yakov for coming in second place, Wayne for third, and Shameless for fourth place. GG, well played. Really impressive play here by Skillus. When it comes to Wayne, he had a bit of a back and forth with Young Yakov. He 2-0'd Shameless, 2-0'd Young Yakov, but then Young Yakov won in the rematch. So Wayne and Young Yakov, nowadays, they often do trade blows and they often go back and forth. They're very close in skill. In the past, I would say that Wayne was hands down, the stronger Zerg player, but nowadays we have that closer skill disparity between Wayne and Young Yakov. Much closer in skill. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations, Skillus, and a shout out to Middle VK for hosting the event, for organizing the event, and for running the event as well. That leads us into the Host Open number 22. This is, of course, a Brazilian-only tournament, very Protoss and Terran heavy. Here we have Master. Master, I would say, is pinned as the heavy favorite for the event. Master, he even beat Eric last code for Giants Cup as well. Or sorry, it was last time on this is StarCraft. But Master, he takes down Simpacker, takes down Goat, takes down Inexorable 3-2. And Inexorable wins in the rematch. It's been a while since I've seen Inexorable defeat Master. Like, Master has been the dominant force in recent times, in recent months. So to see Inexorable bring him down, impressive. Very impressive play here by Inexorable. GG, well played. As Inexorable does take the win, does come out on top here in Host Open number 22. That leads us into the Bassless Big Brain Bouts. It has been months since the last Bassless Big Brain Bouts. It's been so long. The last event was back in August, not even in September. The end of August was the last Big Brain Bouts, and now suddenly it has returned. I had assumed that it was over, that 100 bouts and we were done. Like, I assumed that we were just wrapping up, but it looks like no, that is not the case. Looks like the tournament has returned. It's interesting that they returned in December and not January. Like, it would, like, I feel like it would have fit a little bit better if we did see the return of this event a little bit later on in January, you know, starting 2026 strong. But they did not did not hold back at all. We just jumped into 101. The Big Brain Bouts 101, featuring Cero versus Showtime. We had Winged versus TKL and GG Machine versus Mixu. Oh, a nice amount of Zerg players here. And a lot of mirror matchups, actually. Shout out to TKL. TKL, of course, is a French caster. Winged is a more amateur German Protoss player. And we had, a bit of an off-race show match, actually. They are Protoss and Protoss, but if you see here, they played Terran and Zerg at some points as well. I think they race picked, otherwise it'd say that they played random. But I'm a little bit uncertain of that. In the end, Winged did take down TKL 3-2, but again, it looks like they were off racing towards the end. They were off racing. So congratulations to Winged. Shout out to TKL, of course, for competing. That leads us into Mixer versus GG Machine. GG Machine takes down Mixu 3-0. I would say there is a bit of a gap in skill between these two players. Mixu, I will admit, though, has been looking really good in recent times. We saw Mixu travel to the Americas to compete in SE for All. And of course, Mixu did recently win the Finnish tournament as Terran. But Mixu, he has been looking good for himself. But last GG Machine with a more dominant performance, 3-0. GG well played. That leads us into the headliner match, Cero versus Showtime. And Cero, he may have been absent from tournaments in recent times, but Cero is very much so in form. He takes on Showtime 3-0 in a best of 5. Very dominant performance here out of Cero. GG well played. GG well played. Very impressive moments here by Cyril. I did see Rotterdam lurking in Eba's chat, asking about the next Big Brain bout. So that might give you a little bit of insight as to who might compete. I don't know if Eba said yes, though. I don't know if he agreed to it. But I do know that he was skulking about in certain Twitch chats, looking for players to invite and looking for players to bring on board to compete. So this is, I believe, going to be once again a weekly tournament, a weekly show match series. Big Win Bouts, they're back. They are back. And again, they are sponsored by Basilisk, and they are casted over on Rotterdam's channel. That leads us into this week's OSC event, OSC cast. That is going to be the OSC Elite Rising Star number 17. We have crowned our champion. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Now, if you remember from the beginning of this event, my eyes were on 3 players, the top 3 of each race in this tournament. The top 3 players, one of each race in this tournament: Percival, Jan Jakob, and Shameless. Those were my top 3 picks to make it deep and make it far. And my eyes were on Jan Jakob just because of his previous performance. If you watched OSC Elite Rising Star number 16, who was the champion? Jan Jakob. Who did he beat? Percival. Right, Jakob, he beat Percival, and he beat Shameless in the previous Rising Star tournament, and it happened again. Jakob, he takes down Jimmy 3-0, takes down Percival 3-1, and takes down Shameless 3-1 as well. Back-to-back champion here. Jan Jakob is still the Rising Star. GG, well played. Congratulations. Yako does claim the win. Shout out to Shameless. Shameless did defeat Percival initially. 3-2, went all the way to the ace match. Did bring Percival down, but did end up falling to Young Yakov in the end. But regardless, congratulations to Yakov. Very well done, very well played. Winning 2 OC Elites back to back, one after the other. Congratulations. The final day was covered by Steadfast. For those that are curious, so Steadfast did cover those matches, did cover the finale. Leads us into the Masters Cup at number 150. This is covered by Dave Testa. Again, Dave, he's been covering the entirety of this event, the group stage and the playoffs, and we finally have our champion, ByuN. ByuN took down Geralt 2-1, took down Creator 3-0. ByuN was waiting in the grand finals for his next opponent. If you remember, Solar, he got knocked down a little bit earlier in this tournament and had to fight his way back up, and Solar, he took no chances. He 3-0'd Percival, he 3-0'd Nicaract, he 3-0'd Creator, oh my god, in the rematch as well, and ByuN took down Solar 3-0 in the finals. Oh my god, not a scoreline that I was expecting. Very impressive play here by ByuN. It's a bit of a shame that we have seen less ByuN in recent times. As I mentioned before, there's a reason why ByuN wasn't a part of RSL. He was unwell, he was sick, he was under the weather. That's also why he was not competing in Open Cups. I think it was 2 weeks ago. So he was recovering, but has recently returned and is still looking like a beast here. Again, congratulations to ByuN for taking down Solar 3-0, Creator 3-0, and Geralt 2-1. Really impressive scorelines here out of ByuN. Very impressive play. GG, well played. And yeah, again, from my understanding, I believe Dave is doing this on a quote-unquote annual basis. Like, this event isn't necessarily the most regular events anymore. So Dave has he was able to sponsor this event and bring it back. He did the same thing last year with number 149, and he did the same thing the year before that with 143. So 3 years in a row we've had an annual OSC Masters Cup. So I would imagine we'll have another one next year as well. I would imagine next year, 2025, not 2026, another OSC Masters Cup from Dave Testa towards the end of the year. I would imagine just based on the last 3 years that will continue. But congratulations to ByuN, and a shout out to Dave for sponsoring the event and for running the event on an annual basis. That leads us into our Open Cups. Our Open Cups are here. It looks like maybe the rest of our regional events are taking a bit of a break. I don't blame them. You know, it's the end of the year. We're wrapping up. Holidays are abound. So it looks like this week there was no Sunrise Cup or Japanese weeklies. Bearing in mind that the Chinese Amateur Team League matches, they already concluded. We already wrapped up the Code S and Code A versions. And we also wrapped up the celebratory Chinese server returning matches, tournaments as well. So the server cup. So a lot of events have wrapped up for some of the other regions. So it looks like we're kind of dying down, or where we're kind of wrapping things up, slowing things down as we enter the holidays. But we still have our Open Cups. Up first, we have Wardy TV Monday number 65. Oh boy, we did have Max. He took down Nick. This is a weekly Open Cup organized by Wardy. We usually cast this event via replays. This event does start later than usual because of daylight savings. Wardy does cast it in English, and I remember we raided Harston as Harston was competing in this event and then was casting the event after as well. I think he joined Wardy. They joined forces, and Best Man and the groom himself casting together. So I believe they did cast together towards the end. But Max X took down the correct 2-0, took down Percival 2-0, took down Rogue 2-1. Great to see some Rogue. Like Rogue, he's not the most active player at the moment, so great to see Rogue competing. He took down Cure 2-1 and did take a map off of Max. A really impressive play there by Rogue. That led us into the lower portion of the bracket. ByuN towards a Laser, he beat Shin. If you remember, we did have this discussion about Laser earlier, talking about how he retired, but he recently returned to StarCraft 2 and has been a bit more active. This is one of the players that I'm looking forward to seeing, and I'm hoping he gets an invite to the next HomeStory Cup. Beating Shin is no easy feat. Bearing in mind, Shin recently beat Raynor in ZVZ, so congratulations to a Laser. He may have gone down to ByuN, but he performed very well to defeat Shin. Well played. That leads us into the semifinals. ByuN is back, and ByuN takes down Clem 2-1 in a TVP. Again, Clem has some of the best PVT in the world. Clem, his Protoss vs Terran is insanely good. So for ByuN to defeat Clem, I mean, that's a big move. That is a big result. That is a big win for ByuN. That leads us into the grand finals, where Max did defeat ByuN 3-1 to become this week's Wardy TV Monday champion. congratulations here to Max. GG, well played, as Clem was denied the finals. Was denied. Now, typically, they do go back and forth, and I'm curious to see how that unfolds in the Monday Night Weekly. As we head on over, we have Monday Night Weekly number 34, and this time Clem gets his revenge. Clem, he takes down an Inexorable 2-0, takes down a Shameless 2-0, and this time Clem beats ByuN. So again, there's a reason why we say that Clem has some of the best PvT in the world. Clem, he does take down ByuN 2-1, does get his revenge. That leads us into the upper bracket finals, where Max, they finally have a chance to meet here tonight, and Max does defeat ByuN 2-0, knocking him down, as Max took out Solar to do so. So very strong and dominant showing here by Max. Heading on over to the grand finals, Max 3-0's Clem. Clem brought his way back into those finals, but Max shut him down. GG, well played, Max 3-0 dominant performance. Fun fact, Max didn't drop a single map in this tournament. He 2-0'd Solar, 2-0'd Gigi Machine, 2-0'd Baby Marine, 2-0'd Clem, and then 3-0'd Clem. That is a crazy run here. Max looking insane here tonight in the Monday Night Weekly and in the Wardy TV Monday. I didn't get to mention it, but Monday Night Weekly, of course, is an event organized by TKL, by ComeBackTV. TKL, he organized the event. There's a Ko-Fi for the event as well. It is open for all casters, but once again, this event is very, very late here in Australia, so we do not cast it on the CranKy Ducklings, but it's typically covered by Rotterdam, by Steadfast. I know that Zombergub sometimes casts this event, sometimes Chicken Man, sometimes some other English casters as well. But congratulations to Max for claiming first place, and congratulations to Solar and Gigi Machine. They tied when it comes to their placements, so they split the earnings for the best performing Zerg player. We spoke about this earlier, but there aren't many Zerg players in StarCraft 2 at the moment, so we do have some bonus awards specifically for Zerg players that have high ratings and high performances to incentivize Zerg players to compete and to improve. So shout out to both Solar and Gigi Machine for splitting that $12.50. Shout out to our two Zerg players, and of course, congratulations to Max. No, GG all played. Oh, I see in the chat. I'm so sad that Wikipedia cuts off round 1. Oh, what happened in round 1? Did something happen, Papi? Did something happen? Did I miss something? Este Azura. Sorry, Este Lelix. Okay. Are you referring to your series versus Baby Marine? Maybe.
I think it was about the Wardy Open.
Oh, the Wardy events. Oh, okay. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, I'll quickly check. Did we miss something? Checking. We had ByuN versus Cure. True. We had Creator versus Mana as well. Let's go. Now I see why. That's a crazy result. True. Este Ledlix in the chat took down Gumiho 2-1. Oh my god, Papi. Calm down. Okay. I see you. Este Ledlix. It's deserving to bring attention to, though, because that is a big upset. That's a big result. I mean, yes, Gumiho, he is less active. He's a much more inactive player nowadays. He doesn't compete in as many tournaments. He's not retired, but he is less active. But still, to bring him down 2-1 is a very impressive result. Shout out to Lelix, Papi. Oh my god. Este Lelix. GG, well played. Did get down to Young Yakov afterwards, but did take down Gumiho in the first round. That's a crazy result. GG, well played. That leads us into our events, bearing in mind that Tuna Cup was moved to Tuesday instead of the weekend because of RSL to not clash. So we did have our Open Cup here. Sparkling Tuna Cup number 115, very Terran heavy. We had the Terran TVT in the upper portion of the semifinals. Now, unfortunately, there were some issues with this event, and it did affect Monday Night Weekly as well. True. I didn't get to mention it, but for the day, for the 24 hours surrounding Sparkling Tuna Cup and Monday Night Weeklies, unfortunately, there was a patch that was released. There was a patch that was implemented to the NA region, to the European region, but not to the Korean region. So trying to bounce back and forth between regions does force you to download and to update the patch, and it takes a long time just because the game is notoriously not well optimized, and the routing does kind of take a really weird path as well. Unless you use a VPN. True. That is true. But because of that, as a caster, I couldn't switch back and forth between America and Korea, so we were unable to cast the semifinals. The upper semi specifically. ByuN took down Milky Cow, went all the way to the ace match. Milky Cow did take a map. Percival took down Young Yakov, got his revenge from the OSC Elite Rising events, 2-1 as well. And we saw the semifinals. Again, unfortunately, we weren't able to cast it. We might be able to cast the replays at a later date, but Percival had a crazy upset, taking down ByuN 2-1. GG, well played. A very impressive result here by Percival. Unfortunately, we didn't get to cast it because it was happening on the Korean server, and unfortunately, again, the game was just a little bit bugged out and we could not join the Korean server. So a bit of a feels bad, man. Scrolling down, we did have Ryung. Ryung took down Nice. Ryung, he went down to Cristiano. Cristiano, he played against non-stop Terrans here in this tournament and non-stop ace matches. You can see Cristiano, he took down Nicorette barely 2-1. He took down Ryung barely 2-1, and he took down Percival barely 3-2. It was a very intense finals, very close games, very close series. I highly recommend checking out the VODs for the matches that we covered, and look at how many ace matches there are. ByuN versus Milky Cow went to the ace match. Percival Yakov, Cristiano Nicorette, Cristiano Ryung, ByuN Percival, the finals. The only series that didn't when it came to the quarterfinals onwards was Ryung versus Nice. But so many close series, and there's a world, I'll be honest, where we could have seen Milky Cow instead of ByuN. We could have seen Young Yakov instead of Percival. We could have seen Nicorette instead of Cristiano. Like this tournament was so close, and we could have seen such a different pairing of players if any little thing went differently. So very close, very clutch, very intense, a very intense tournament, very close in skill, and congratulations to Cristiano for claiming another Tuna Cup over Percival. Very, very hard win. I remember that he did message me at the end of the tournament. As soon as he beat Percival, he was like, holy fuck. I was like, aye, papi. It's a hard life. I was like, GG, you did well, papi, you did well. And Cristiano, he was exhausted. He was just completely tapped out after the event, after all those PVTs. Even before the finals, he was like, yo, PVT is so hard right now. Like, my army is so fragile. I'm like, yeah, it's not wrong, but hey, he pulled it off. He pulled it off, Pat. Pulled it off. So congratulations to Cristiano for taking down Percival. That leads us into the PondCast Cup. PondCast Cup number 62. This was played out yesterday. I do apologize. We did not cast this event. Recently, I just haven't had as much free time, especially coming in towards the holidays, and especially post-RSL. I spoke about post-RSL this weekend. I was so drained, so we decided not to cast this event live. I might try to cast this event via replays in the future, but it depends if we get replays, right? It depends if we do receive replays. If so, then we can cover it. Otherwise, it was covered by Pig and Steadfast. Again, this event is organized by Stegosaurus. It is sponsored by Pig, and we finally get a new logo. For a long time, they were using the old Stegosaurus Ursasaurus logo instead. So it's a little bit older from a previous time with a previous sponsor, but now we do have a very, very cute Stegosaurus with a pig face, with a pig head, a Pigosaurus, if you will. So we do have a new logo for PondCast Cup. It is very cute. It's very nice, and we'll be incorporating that with our own overlays once we cover the next event. So do not worry, that will happen. But a shout out to Clem, because Clem finally gets his revenge. Clem, he takes down Scarlet, true Scarlet, playing for the first time in a long time. Clem takes down Scarlet, Clem takes down Kira 3-0, and Clem takes down MaxPax 3-0. Remember, MaxPax beat Clem in the Monday Night Weeklies, but Clem, he 3-0s MaxPax. A much stronger showing, a much stronger result here from Clem, looking to learn from their previous series. And this often happens, we speak about it, but these two, they play so often that the meta grows around them. They get accustomed to each other, they adjust their play styles, they adjust their games, they adjust their play, they improve together in that TVP matchup. So MaxPax may have beaten Clem in Monday Night Weekly. Clem beats MaxPax here, PondCast Cup. GG. GG well played. And of course, shout out to MaxPax for making it to the finals as well. He was able to bring down Shameless and Solar to make it 2-set finals. We can see Gumiho playing here as well. Interesting. Again, Gumiho has been less active, but to see Gumiho in the Water TV Monday and to see Gumiho here as well, I mean, it makes me believe that maybe Gumiho is playing a little bit more, and I hope that is the case. They'll be playing more, and we'll be seeing more of Gumiho in the near future. When it comes to other upsets, crazy result. Nice took down ByuN early, 2-1. Big win for Nice. Crazy upset as well. He denies ByuN having a chance at a rematch against Clem. Remember, ByuN and Clem have been going back and forth recently, but ByuN is denied the chance to even have an attempt at that rematch by Nice. So GG well played. Shout out to Nice for causing that upset, for bringing ByuN down. Otherwise, with that, Clemmy does take the win, 3-0 over MaxPax, and that is the end of our Urban Cups of the week. That leads us into the WarDTV 2025 playoffs. I believe last time we already wrapped up the group stage. The group stage had... Oh, no, sorry. We had wrapped up Group Stage 1. That's it. Group Stage 1 had wrapped up. But this weekend was Group Stage 2, which we didn't get to cover. So we had the seeding matches, which we were trying to speculate as to what would occur there. All right, that's it. Last PondCast, Group D was actually still underway, so we didn't actually get to talk about it. We hadn't seen these results. Oh my god. I remember coming into this, I had some high hopes for Bunny, but no, Creator, Ubu Thermal, and Nice make it through. I think I was saying Creator, Uthermal, and Bunny. Yeah, I think those are my top three, but I was definitely giving credence to Nice and Alasia for maybe causing upsets. But Bunny doesn't make it through. We have Nice, Uthermal, and Creator. Very, very impressive play here. Uthermal making it through, Creator making it through. That leads us into the seeding matches for the playoffs, which did take place over the weekend. Here we had Group A and B. These matches are a little bit less important just because all the players make it through anyway. But Classic comes out in first place, ByuN in second, Solo in third, and MaxPax in last place in Group A. I would say a little bit surprising here, but MaxPax went down to both Solar and ByuN. He only took down Classic, really close group. We had Group B with Shin in first, Hero in second, Clem in third, and Showtime in fourth. Once again, a little bit surprising, but yeah, Clem, he actually lost to Shin and he lost to Hero. He only beat Showtime. So I would say that Clem and Solar and MaxPax did underperform in the groups. And we'll see if that affects the playoff bracket, as that is a massive double elimination bracket. Oh my god. it's a massive bracket. It's a lot of games, a lot of matches, and I believe it's going to be continuing tonight. Yes, in an hour. In an hour's time, it is going to be continuing tonight, so we may as well catch you up on what has been going on. Who has been eliminated? Spirit takes down Yang Yako. Spirit takes down Rogue as well. Spirit takes down Spirit. Piotr. He's crazy. We have been in recent weeks been talking about Spirit and his recent rise in strength and rise in play. It's kind of weird and kind of unfortunate, but Spirit is looking better than he did during EWC. Like Spirit right now, it looks like he's peaking and he's devoting more time to playing and improving, and it feels like this is the best that Spirit has looked the entire year, even during EWC as well, which is a little bit unfortunate. I'm sure that Spirit wanted to peak then instead of peaking now. But Spirit takes down Yang Yakov, takes down Rogue, takes down Showtime. Spirit is up against a Hero in the upper bracket round 4. Meanwhile, who else do we have? Seamus took down Uthermal 3-1. Seamus took down Mana. Seamus did fall to MaxPax, and MaxPax beat ByuN as well. So MaxPax already making it to the upper bracket quarterfinals. Cure versus Creator, that's going to be played out later on tonight. Winner against Solar, also played out later tonight as well. Rainer took down Scarlet, and Rainer took down Clem 3-2. That's a big win. That's a big result for Rainer. Very impressive. I mean, Rainer did recently take down Maru in RSL, and to bring down Clem here in the WarDTV event. GG well played. Very impressive play there by Rainer. He does advance on to face off against MaxPax. Yep, as we mentioned, Rainer, his wish after RSL was he didn't want to play against a Protoss player for another month. It's like a couple of days later. It's they're scheduled to play in like 2 days time, so less than a week after RSL, bam, more ZVP. Rainer just can't get away from it. He cannot get away from it. Best of luck to Rainer. Best of luck. Shin was seeded further in the brackets. Classic was seeded further in. It looks like we have some elimination matches that are wrapping up, but we have Nice. Nice takes down Yang Yakov 3-1. Yakov is out of the tournament. And Geralt takes down Uthermal 3-2. Went to the ace match, but Uthermal, he is out of the tournament as well. So we have our first 2 players eliminated, and we still have more players to go. So if you have a favorite player that got knocked down, do not worry. Clem is still in the tournament. ByuN is still in the tournament. They have chances to redeem themselves and to fight back from the lower bracket. They have those opportunities. And again, it's, I would say, a little bit early to really have any big predictions. The event should be wrapping up by the time we have the next PondCast. It looks like the event wraps up on the 21st of December. Yep, which is this weekend. So this weekend should be the conclusion of this event. So what are our predictions here? Spirit is looking really good for sure, but he's also now hitting the best players in the world. He's hitting Hero, Solar, Classic, Cure, Creator. So Spirits has a really impressive run. I think his run may end around here though, because the series have been very close against Showtime and Rogue. It only gets harder. I do have high hopes for Solar. I know that Solar's been looking really good in ZVP, but he's going to be up against the top two protossers in the world, right? Hero and Classic are in his same half of the bracket. I think there's a very high chance that Hero makes it through, that Hero does make it through. Hero just beat Classic in the finals of RSL. I would say that if Hero and Classic rematch, 50-50. Honestly, it can go either way. Like, it went all the way to the ace match in the finals of RSL as well. So I can see either Hero or Classic winning that. I do favor the two of them over everyone else, though, in that portion of the bracket. I favor Hero and Classic over Spirit, over Solar, over Cure, over Creator. So I would personally, I do expect one of the two to make it through the upper brackets into the next round. From the bottom side, we have Max, Raynor, and Shin. Shin had a crazy run to make it and to be seeded this far in the event. But I'm going to favor Raynor. Max has been looking really good recently, but I would say that Max has been looking really good against Terran. I do think that his weakest matchup is probably PvZ. I'm also not impressed by his PvP either. Like, these are areas where he's a little bit weaker. I think that having both Raynor and Shin in his half of the bracket is brutal. I think that Max, I think there's a lower chance that he makes it through here. So I can see Raynor beating Max. I can see Shin and Raynor can go either way as well. God, there's so many of these games are going to be so close. Like, I can see that going either way. I'm tentatively going to predict like Hero versus Raynor in the upper bracket finals. Like Hero versus Raynor, and then Hero wins. And then we might even see a Raynor rematch, or there is... based on this bracket, I can see this being a PvP finals. I can see Hero on one side and Classic on the other, or Max on the other side. It's hard to really say that with certainty, though, because Clem is still in the tournament, right? Like, Clem, let's not forget about him. He's in the lower bracket. That's true. There's a higher chance he gets knocked out, but Clem can very well fight all his way back up. I think it'd be a really cool story if Clem fights all his way back up to the finals and then beats Hero in the finals, beats Classic in the finals. I can see that happening. 100%. So I can see Clem having a deep run here to win from the lower brackets. That's something that could happen here. Otherwise, I lean towards like Hero or Classic. But best of luck. Best of luck to all the players. Wishing the best. Wishing the best. Again, it's really hard to have any proper prediction just because there are so many matches left to be played. There's so many players left available. Tentatively, I want to see Clem have a deep run from the lower brackets. Tentatively, I would say that Hero or Classic are favored to make it to the grand finals. From the upper bracket, I think I still favor the two of them over Max, Raynor, and Shin as well. So best of luck. Best of luck to all the players. But otherwise, with that, that is the end of the events this week. Again, there have been less tournaments, as I mentioned before. A lot of the other Open Cups or the other regional cups have gone on a hiatus or have gone on a break because of the holidays. I can totally understand that. Again, like, the holidays are right around the corner, so we should be seeing a bit of a leaner PondCast and a bit of a leaner kind of like tournament schedule moving forward, at least until 2026. Still plenty of StarCraft, still daily StarCraft is going on, but less than usual. Just as a heads up. Less than usual. Otherwise, if you want to take part in some of these events, you can do so via the sign-up list over on Wikipedia. ! Sign-up list in the chat, and we do have a page here that's updated on a regular basis. We have our amateur event, Masters One Open, that is going to be in 2 days' time. We have Hatchery Cup that was rescheduled, that's also right around the corner. We have Sparkling Tuna Cup. We have What Is You Mondays, Monday Night Weeklies, KSL, and of course the Thermal 2v2 circuit is starting up in January. January 5th is going to be Thermal's return to the 2v2 circuit, to the 2v2 tournaments. So look forward to that over in January. Plenty of content, plenty of StarCraft is coming ahead of us. A little bit less so than previously because there are less regionals, but still plenty of StarCraft to come. Meanwhile, we're going to be going on like a break as well. Looking at our schedule, we do have more free days than usual. Very quickly, tomorrow we have nothing planned. Technically, I could cast StarCraft Evolution tomorrow, but we want to spread things out a little bit. So tentatively, tomorrow we don't have any casts, and we should be back on Saturday with Masters One Open. So we have, and of course, Sparkling Tuna Cup on Sunday. So plenty of content, plenty of StarCraft over the weekend. Currently, we have nothing planned for tomorrow. Again, technically, I could try to cast like some Pegasus replays, or I could cast like the Tuna Cup semis, or StarCraft Evolution, or I could reach out and get like Waterfall Cup replays. Or if I really wanted to, we could just just lock in and just hammer down some more content, some more casting. But coming into December, we want to take it easy. We want to sleep. We want to get some rest. We want to stream some ladder, stream some Final Fantasy. Just take it easy coming into the holidays. So intentionally, I'm leaving the schedule a little bit more lean than it usually is. If I really wanted to, we could still cast once a day every day, but we're easing it back. We're adding it back. It's nice to sleep sometimes. True. It's nice to get more than like 5 hours of sleep. But otherwise, if you want to support us, you can do so via Patreon. Despite the fact that we're pulling back a little bit when it comes to our casting, our tournament schedule is still the same as it always was. Sea Duckling Open, Master Swan Open, Sparkling Tunic Cup, still all on a regular basis. Despite the holidays and despite us pulling back on some casting, our tournaments that we organize are still going to be running on a regular basis, all funded via Patreon. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to our patrons. Thank you so much for allowing us to reach our new goals and to head towards our next goals as well, to grow the prize pool of Sparkling Tunic Cup and to maybe even have some monthlies coming into next year. So again, if you want to support us, you can do so via Patreon. !Patreon in the chat. All that money goes towards our tournaments, and it all goes towards growing our events even more as well. Thank you so much, all our patrons, and I look forward to seeing what kind of goals we can reach coming into 2026, coming into the new year. GG, well played. Thank you so much for all the support. Again, a bit of a shorter podcast this week, and I do apologize for it going down earlier. We'll do our best to splice the video together and to upload it all as one. But for those that are maybe listening on YouTube, the video is cut into 2 VODs, so do check out the first part and the second part, as they are both cut into 2. And we did discuss quite a lot in the first part, actually. We went over the RSL, we went over the ByuN documentary, and went over the Finnish tournament as well. So there was a lot discussed in the beginning of the broadcast. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Shout out to Kura for handling the production side of things. And if you're out there, take care of yourselves, and I hope you have a great end of year, great holidays. Very quickly, actually, I believe this is our final podcast of the year. I kind of glossed over that. Our regular casts, our regular content like MSO and Sparkling Tuning Cup and SDO, that's all still running. That's all still running on a regular basis. But when it comes to the PondCast, especially because I'm not by myself here, but we have Kura handling the production side of things as well, the PondCast is going to be going on a hiatus for a couple of weeks. Next week, Christmas. Next week is Christmas. Week after that is New Year's. So the podcast is going to be clashing with those 2 events. I say those 2 events, like a StarCraft tournament. It's going to be clashing with Christmas. It's going to be clashing with New Year's. And of course, typically we're going to be spending our time with our families. So we will not be available for the podcast for those 2 weeks. We should be coming back on the 8th of January. It also means that podcast is going to be a lot to catch up on. There's going to be a lot to catch up on, a lot of tournaments to discuss. So it's going to be a bigger podcast. But again, that is going to be on the 8th of January. For the 1st of January and for the 25th of December, I'm going to be taking those days off. Just as a heads up. So hope you have a great rest of year, end of year, and happy holidays, of course, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. Have a great time. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Hasta luego. Ciao, papi, ciao. Hasta luego.